Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll get started in a minute.
In
And
the
just so you
meantime,
know that
if you want to go ahead and sign in the chat, let us know where you're calling in from, all that kind of stuff, like usual,
And just so folks know, this meeting is being recorded, and that recording will be made available to all who registered to attend. Well, I want to welcome everyone to the general meeting of the Faith Working Group of Third Act. My name is Jim Antal, and I serve on the coordinating council of the Faith Working Group of Third Act. This meeting is being recorded, and that recording will be available to any and all who registered to attend. As you may know, Third Act is a new and growing movement that now includes over 100,000 baby boomers and members of the silent generation who are working to leave a fair and stable planet for our kids, our grandkids, and for all future generations. We're using our skills, our power, and our influence to embrace the urgent changes our civilization must undertake to assure a livable planet for coming generations. The Faith Working Group is one of 30 working groups that together form Third Act. Third Act Faith brings together elders of faith from a broad range of faith backgrounds and spiritual traditions. Our meeting tonight is facilitated by Third Act Faith Working Group's coordinating committee, composed of volunteer elders of faith across the country. If you haven't done so already, you can sign up at thirdact.org. That's one word, THIRDACT.org. And while you're there, you can also sign up for Third Act Faith Working Group. Tonight, we will begin with a few announcements and a centering exercise, and then we're honored to be hearing from author and activist Rabbi Ellen Bernstein. We'll also have an opportunity for small group conversations in a breakout room. And we'll wrap up with a few action items, including what's next for Third Act Faith. Before I turn it over to MJ, I want to be sure you're all aware of something that happened just last week. The White House and the Department of Energy placed a pause on a proposed plan for building 17 new liquid natural gas export terminals. Third Act, together with many other climate organizations, generated tens of thousands of signatures, and this coalition was preparing perhaps the largest civil disobedience action in U.S. history. To everyone's surprise, the Department of Energy and the White House announced that the proposed LNG export terminals, 17 of them, would be halted so that their impact on climate change could be evaluated. This decision was the biggest thing a U.S. president has ever done to stand up to the fossil fuel industry. In other words, we won, all of us together. This is just one example of what collective action can accomplish. Now, MJ, over to you.
Good evening. I am so excited about that news because I think it bodes well for what we're going to be doing this year. back in January, the coordinating committee members got together for a retreat to kind of assess what our purpose will be as a group contributing to Third Act's mission there to safeguard democracy and preserve the planet. And we also wanted to develop what would be our focus, our main actions this year. And unanimously, the committee members at that retreat decided that we needed to prioritize democracy, uplifting democracy and uplifting our members as far as encouraging them to vote and to get out and mobilize people to vote and help with the election process this year to make sure we have good and safe elections. So to that end, Third Act Faith has decided our campaign as a working group would be to focus on the sacred right to vote and to get out that word, to encourage our members to take it to their faith communities, their congregations, and mobilize people to the idea that they must participate this year, that we have that these 2024 elections are crucial for both democracy and climate, and we have to be out there. And so we did it with LNG as a collective action, and we can do it this year with our uplifting of democracy. And besides the things that we are planning as a working group, which will include a panel discussion of some sort that we're putting together to talk about what this means, the sacred right to vote. We will also be organizing some kind of how-to workshop to explore and share with ministers and anyone who wants to attend what it means to go into the pulpit and mobilize your congregations. Jim has written a great article for Going Deep we published last month about this homiletic tradition that dates back to early America that's been discarded called the election sermon. And our workshop will be talking about what the election sermon is, how to do it, what not to do with it, and use that to encourage our ministers and our church leaders and congregational leaders to get out and mobilize their congregations. We also have a couple of other things that Third Act is itself is encouraging at present that we can do as individuals. I have participated in some of these programs individually, but we don't have to do it alone. We can also gather together our friends and do these things together as a group, or maybe members of our worship community. So one is priority for them right now is to join up with the Activate America voting election process organization to do phone banking for New York's 3rd District House of Representatives seat that is being vacated by George Santos. And that is critical. That election, that special election is February 14th, and they want people to help with the phone banks. And the other thing that's coming up that's more immediate, closer, is there's a series of U.S. House of Representative elections coming up in California in March, the primaries. It's going to be important to who you choose in those primaries to run. And they have a postcard campaign that Activate America. They're really good at targeting people to get out the vote. And so go to activateamerica.org, or more importantly, go to thirdact.org and look for those campaigns and sign up for them through thirdact.org. So those are the two big Third Act Central items that are current right now. Another one that they want us to get involved in was with the Civic Center to it's called a senior to senior program. It's to mobilize our people to go out and help organize high schools to register their seniors to vote. And there's a campaign to help organize campus voter registration campaigns too on community colleges. All of that information can be found on thirdact.org. So please consider those efforts. But watch our newsletter and any special mailings for these special programs that we're planning to have in the spring and early summer. So I think that's all. So Trish, I'll let you report.
I don't have that much to report at this moment, but democratizing energy is the area of focus that I've been working on with other third actors across the country. And that involves, for those of you who haven't heard about it before, that involves both working with public utility commissions on working on the right to energy with our utilities. It also involves implementing the Inflation Reduction Act, which is also a way that we are going to power up our communities. The reason that it's taking a back seat is, I think, partly because of all the other things that are going on that are just extremely timely right now, as Mary Jane has just said, but also because we're still waiting for a lot of information from the government for implementing the Inflation Reduction Act. But I've been working with Interfaith Power and Light and other religious environmental groups on making sure that we have the information and can bring it to everybody when it is available. So Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
So I've been representing Third Act Faith with the emphasis that Third Act has on climate finance and divesting. Probably everyone who is part of this call knows at least that for the past 10 years, there's been a movement to divest from fossil fuels. We're 10.5 years into that movement, and almost $41 trillion of portfolios have purged their portfolios of their ownership of fossil fuel stocks. And of the 1,600 or 1,700 institutions that have reported having done that, more than a third of them are houses of worship and faith communities. So if you're a member of a house of worship which has not yet considered divesting, you can learn more about that on the Third Act website. And you can also see that there are many, many organizations, Move Your Money, and there are just countless organizations involved in this. The other thing I wanted to draw your attention to is that there are 4 major banks in the United States that lend money to fossil fuel companies to build out their fossil fuel capacities, which none of us really need. And the amount of money that's lent to those by those banks to fossil fuel companies now is over $1.4 trillion since the Paris Climate Accords. So we're also focusing on the 4 largest banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, and Chase, trying to get them through various forms of pressure to stop lending money for the build out of further fossil fuel companies. You can find out more information about that. And if your congregation wants to get involved, there are all kinds of resources available on the Third Act website. Now I'm going to turn it over to Trish for some centering exercise and music. Trish?
Sure. So I want to say a few words, and then we're going to have some wonderful music. We're going to be thinking tonight about how we humans tend to think about nature and all creation as a backdrop for the real drama, the human drama. It's only lately that climate change has brought nature's much larger drama to our attention. So tonight we're going to be discussing with Rabbi Ellen Bernstein her new book on the biblical book of Song of Songs, whose poetry brings the natural world very much to the foreground. Last spring, Third Act Faith opened one of our meetings with the Jewish singer Batya Levine's wonderful anthem, We Rise. When Ellen and I started talking about planning for tonight, she suggested we play another of Batya's songs celebrating the annual Jewish holiday Tu B'Shvat, which occurred this past Thursday. Tu B'Shvat is informally known as the birthday of trees. It was originally a day to pay taxes on fruit trees, but over time people developed customs such as giving fruit gifts to neighbors. And today it's widely seen as a Jewish Earth Day. And it's celebrated especially by environmentalists, schools, and farmers. So I invite you to let Batya's music flow through you as we settle our minds and center ourselves for the evening, giving thanks for the great gifts that nature brings and remembering what we are called to give back to our neighbors and to all creation. That's lovely. So this evening, I'm delighted and honored to welcome environmental writer Rabbi Ellen Bernstein to our meeting. In 1988, Rabbi Bernstein founded the first national Jewish environmental organization, Shomrei Adamah, Keepers of the Earth. She's written several books on Judaism and is an advisor to the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology and Faith for Our Planet. So we'll be talking about her newest book, which is called Toward a Holy Ecology, Reading the Song of Songs in the Age of Climate Crisis, which will be out next month. And I think we're going to put some ordering information into the chat for you in case you're interested in that. And her website is also on this slide. The Song of Songs is traditionally read as a love story between a man and a woman, or between God and the people of Israel. Yet this song is also a love story between the people and the creatures of the land. Dr. Bernstein's book, Toward a Holy Ecology, illuminates the song's deep ecological wisdom, offering solace and a vision for living on Earth in these troubled times. So welcome, Ellen. So great to have you here.
It's great to be here. I'm thrilled to be back with my old friends of Third Act Faith. So it's really such a pleasure to be working with you.
So Ellen, I know that you know Batya Levine personally. So before we start talking about the Song of Songs, could you tell us a little bit about the song we just heard and the significance of Tu B'Shvat for you?
Sure. Well, I've never talked to Batya about what the song meant to her, but that song is so enlivening and joyful, and I just find it incredibly beautiful and uplifting, and it has significance for me for a few reasons. Number one, when I founded the first Jewish environmental organization, the very first thing I did was develop a Seder, which is a ritual, an ordered ritual for the holiday of Tu B'Shvat, the New Year of the Trees. And that was the beginning of Shomrei Adamah. And we held this big festival in Philadelphia in one of the boathouses along Boathouse Row, and it was co-sponsored by Philadelphia Parks Department and lots of other organizations. And it was this beautiful arts and music and text and fruit feast. So that was really the impetus for founding, sort of the first event that we did to really get Shomrei Adamah off the ground. And a piece of that work is that it was really grounded in love, and that has, starting with Tu B'Shvat and a celebration of life, and seeing that celebration of life within Torah texts has kind of permeated through all of my work. And I just want to also give a shout out to the fact that Batya and everyone in that room, that's my synagogue in Philadelphia in Mount Airy. And there's a huge Jewish music revival among that whole generation that's happening in this neighborhood. So
You can sure hear it. Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, tell us about the Song of Songs, which you now know so well, how it's been interpreted, what is in it. Can you read a little bit of it to get a feel for what the poetry is like?
Sure. So first of all, the song has traditionally been read either as a love song between God and the Israelites, or in Christianity, I guess, between God and the church. And it's either been read that way, or as a love story between a man and a woman. But the allegorical reading has really taken the reading that it's a love story between God and the people, has really taken up a lot of the psychic space for the last 2,000 years. That's really how it's been read. And a lot of people would say the reason it was read that way is because it's so incredibly sensual that it would have freaked out the early interpreters to read it in a more, like a more literal way. So so basically, again, there are two characters. There's a male and a female character. It's often been hard for people to understand the Song of Songs because the way that it's written is it's just doesn't say who the speaker is, and you have to interpret it by the grammar. And it's fuzzy. It's not always clear what's going on. And also there's a lot of in the grammar, the words he and it would be the same word. And so you can't always tell if the poet is talking about a character, a human character, or the tree or the garden. So in Judaism, the Song of Songs is traditionally read on Passover. And it's also read in Sephardic some Sephardic synagogues every Friday night. It's a very short book. It's 8 chapters. And I'll just read just a little bit from, let's see, chapter 1, verses 15 to 17, just to give you a sense, and then a little more after that. So here's the male speaking to the female. You are beautiful, my friend. You are beautiful. Your eyes are doves. And she back to him. You are beautiful, my beloved, fine indeed. Yes, our leafy bed is fresh and green. The beams of our house are cedar. Our rafters are juniper. And then a little further on, one of the things that I'm going to be trying to point out to you as we go along is how front and center all of the natural imagery is. And you'll notice in this passage that I'm going to read, which is chapter 2, verse 7, how in the poem, the name of God is never mentioned. And when there's any kind of swearing going on, it's swearing in the name of the gazelles and the deer instead of like swearing on the Bible. So just this line, swear to me, daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles and the deer of the field, do not awake or arouse love until it pleases. And this is a refrain that happens over and over through the text, that you know, all the swearing happens relative to the animals. That's who that's who the witnesses are. And then this line, this is chapter 2, verse 8. The sound of my beloved, here he is coming, leaping over mountains, sprinting over hills. My love is like a gazelle or young stag. There, he is standing behind our wall, gazing through the windows, peering through the lattice. My love called to me and said, get up, my friend, my beauty, and come away, for now the winter is past, the rain is over and gone, the scarlet blossoms have appeared in the land, the time of the songbird has come, the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land, the green figs form on the fig trees, the flowering vines give off their fragrance. Get up, my friend, my beauty, and come away.
So lovely. So now we come to the question of what does this have to do with the environment and our ecological sensibilities? The premise of your book, Toward a Holy Ecology, is that the Song of Songs can be read as a love song between the earth and humans. By reading it this way, we pay attention to the really rich presence of the natural world all through the poetry. As you've just illustrated, the garden and all its scents, the seasons, the analogies between the two lovers and the creatures of the earth, especially the gazelles and the fruit trees. What first gave you the germ of this idea, which I wish had been my idea?
First of all, somebody asked who the translation, this is my translation, so.
Yeah.
So actually, many years ago, I was in Israel, it's probably 30 years ago now, and someone handed me a book by Yehuda Felix, who he was a biologist, zoologist, and he really, his whole career was dedicated to reading the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, from a biological perspective, or let's put it this way, he was really interested in illuminating all of the natural history aspects of the Bible, and he's written many books. And so I was given this book that he wrote on the Song of Songs, and in it, it's a 8.5 by 11 inch pages, and on each page, he had the allegorical interpretation, then the regular kind of male-female interpretation, and he also had this idea that he followed all the way through, that the story was actually a love story around with two gazelles. So the love story was a story of a gazelle. You know, in the passage that I read, the gazelle was coming to awaken the female gazelle to go on the migration together. And I thought, oh my God, you know, here's a reputable Orthodox Jew biologist who is, you know, citing very clearly that there is this whole natural history dimension that's just as important as the other interpretations. And it just really gave me permission to think ecologically and really looked at the text in a much more ecological way than, you know, I might have felt it was okay to do. So that was also like very early in the beginning of my career around working in Judaism and ecology.
Yeah, that's lovely. So yeah, totally get that, because the work that I've done in Isaiah is very similar. Isaiah he's a city boy in Jerusalem, but he's all about the fields and the vineyards and the grain and everything around that's of natural worth and beauty. Could you read us a little bit from your book so we can get a feel not only for your translation, but also for what you have to say? And then we'll dive into some of your essays.
Sure. So I'm just going to read one paragraph, and I'll just say this: you know, we'll be talking about this. That there are 5 essays in this book. So basically, what this book is are 5 essays followed by a translation of the song and a line-by-line commentary from an ecological perspective. But here's just a little from an essay on ecological identity. This is the end of that essay. The song teaches that ecological identity is an elemental aspect of human nature. Yet in our insular, mechanized, and frenzied technological lives, we are cutting ourselves off from our roots, and our natural ecological sensibility is withering. In contemporary times, identity carries an entirely different meaning than it did even a generation ago. Today, many people regard identity as a function of a particular group to which they belong, be it ethnic, racial, religious, political, gender, or sexual. And yet, when we gravitate too much towards a particular identity, we risk losing sight of our universality and our interdependence with all beings. And this is deeply concerning because now more than ever, all of the Earth's creatures are afflicted by the ecological instability that climate change has wrought. The first step towards ecological repair is to love and identify with the natural world. Our lives and the lives of all those who come after us depend upon it.
Thank you. Thank you. And as you said, it's set up as it's about the Song of Songs, but you set it up both as essays that deeply concern different themes of the Song of Songs, and then a line-by-line commentary, reading your way through the book and your translation of it. So your 5 essays are, this first one ecological identity that you've just read from. And the other four are cycles of time, beauty, justice, and I'm going to have to spell this last one, holiness, but it's with a W at the beginning. WHOLINESS, holiness. These seem to me to be the heart of what you have found in the Song of Songs. Can we talk about each of these a little bit?
Sure. Sure. And I just want to say that, you know, I've been working in this field of Bible and ecology for like 30 years, and like and seeing a lot of the way that other like Bible scholars work with the Bible around ecological matters and the kinds of questions that they ask. And for me, I've often felt like the questions, the way that people have understood environment or ecology, I've felt like was narrow, and that it's possible to expand the ecological conversation by asking different questions of the text, and seeing what is in the text that wants to come forward. So again, I'm not going to talk that much about ecological identity because of, you know, I just read that little passage, but but basically the idea being that it's important for us to start identifying more with the natural world, and the way we get this through the song is that all of the natural world is foregrounded over and over again in the song. Either it's foregrounded or it's in the background, but if you just change the way you look at the song, if you interpret the it's as a gazelle or the he as a gazelle instead of the man, then then the whole natural world comes into the foreground. And that's really remarkable. In, you know, you don't find that very much in biblical literature or lots of literature. You know, usually that's the human story that's foregrounded. So so that's the ecological identity essay. And just if there's more questions about it, just chime in with them. Second essay is Cycles of Nature. And in that, again, this feels like, you know, it's important to always be, if we want to understand the ecology of a text, to be understanding what is going on in time, in the seasons, in the cycles of nature, as we read the text. Like, is the author paying attention to these things? That's what is helping to make a piece an ecological piece. And in the song, we do find this whole arc, which starts in winter. Well, actually starts in late summer. The woman is all sunburned. And then the passage that I just read, the winter has just passed and the rains are over and gone. All the flowers are just, the early flowers are coming up. The first birds are coming back. And then the song progresses through the spring. And you have the woman going down over and over to the garden. She takes a few different trips down to this garden to see if the flowers have what state the flowers are in. Are they blossoming yet? And she goes down, and each time, no, they're not blossoming. And only when the love fruit, the dodiac, what?
Pomegranate?
Mandrakes are
Pomegranate?
after-
No, the mandrakes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So the mandrakes are the love fruit. Okay, and the love fruit has the word love in it in Hebrew. So it's the mandrake. So it's only when when the mandrakes are in blossom, which is towards the end of like it's in the chapter 7, the song is 8 chapters. So in chapter 7, she goes down, the mandrake, the love fruit is blooming. Also, there's reference to the wheat in that chapter. And there's this whole sense that it's the late spring. In Judaism, it corresponds with the holiday of Shavuot, which what would that be in Christianity?
Pentecost.
Pentecost. Okay. So it's like late June, and the time of the wheat harvest, and the pomegranate and the mandrakes are giving off their smell. And this is the Shavuot is the time when God reveals the Torah to the Israelites, right? And this is the time that I'm saying that the male and the female finally reveal themselves totally and give themselves to each other at the same time that revelation is happening in nature, and that revelation is happening with the divine as well. So that everything is coming together at that moment. Now you'll have all these scholars and all kinds of other people that read the song and want to say, like, count the number of times that they think that the love is being consummated in the text. So you could say that my reading is very prudish, but it's taking very seriously the cycles of nature, which I feel like these other readings are not seeing at all. And that the whole point of this is that their love cycles in tune with the cycles of nature.
Yeah, there's that refrain that you refer to that happens over and over. Don't awaken love until
Right.
it's ready. And at the same time, what you also pointed out that was just, I hadn't ever noticed before, is the way that when she goes seeking him, he's elusive. And then
Right.
when he goes seeking her, she's elusive. And one time they both elude each other. And so it
Right.
takes them a bit to kind of find the same vibe with each other,
Right.
to both be facing each other at the same time.
Right.
And so
That could be the only moment is right there in chapter 7.
yeah.
But yeah, the way I talk about it is like they're each on their own biorhythm.
Mhm.
And then that finally it comes together. And then at the end, they're she's like, go on your way. They don't end up happily ever after, like staying with each other necessarily. He's going to
Right.
go off in his life and she's going to do her own thing.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about that a little bit, because, one of the things that you note is that she starts out the whole book with an unmediated voice. Nobody says, and she said, or then I'm giving her permission to say something, the way most women are in the Bible, if they get to say anything at all. But she just starts out, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. And so she's a free woman all the way through. And you talk in your book, I forget which, I think this is in Justice, in the section on justice, where you talk about the equality and co-being of the man and the woman figures in the Song of Songs. Do you want to talk about that one a little bit more? I know we want to go back to some of the others.
Sure. Yeah. So what's one of the amazing things about the song is that the woman's voice is clearly the strongest. She starts the song, as Trisha just said, and she has the most lines. She ends the song. She has the strongest voice. She gives us this gorgeous philosophical monologue at the end, this brilliant, piece of wisdom. Not only that, what's really shocking is that the father is never invoked. There's no invocation of a father, but she invokes her mother over and over. So she refers to her brothers as her mother's sons. She doesn't say my brother, she says my mother's sons. And when she wants to take her beloved home, she brings him, she talks about bringing him to her mother's house and to the apple tree where she was conceived and where her mother went through conception. It's just, it's remarkable, really.
Mhm.
And actually what's kind of remarkable to me is that it hasn't been really taken up by feminists in a way that I would imagine, given how strong the woman's voice is in the song.
Yeah.
So anyway, and so what I wanted to say also about justice is that justice, it begins really with the elevation of the woman's voice, and what's interesting is her values in the song are values of simplicity. That's what the piece I read early, the very first piece I read it to try to point out that what she wanted with her lover was a simple green nest in the woods. Her life is as simple as possible. She's contrasted with the ladies of Jerusalem, who seem like they're much more interested in luxury and wealth. And she's also contrasted with Solomon, who in both, the regular Torah text, as well as in the Song of Songs, he's presented as kind of a grandiose figure who has lots and lots of wealth and servants. And so there's a sense of a critique of him. Now, a lot of people don't read Solomon that way. They read him as this like grandiose and very positive figure, but there's also a critique, and I totally read him as being critiqued in the song.
Yeah. Well, we're my timekeepers are saying that we're almost at an end, and yet we've only scratched the surface. We have so much more to talk about.
How much time do we have?
We have about 1 or 2 minutes.
Sorry, let me say, I'm going to correct you. You have about 5 minutes.
Okay.
5 minutes. We had 5 minutes a little while ago, but we got 5 minutes now.
Great.
So I want to ask you then, in kind of in summary, why are we talking about biblical poetry when we are talking about activism? Does it have to do with love for the beauty of the natural world? Does that inspire us? Does the justice that we see in Song of Songs and in the natural world, does that inspire us? What is it that we want to take away directly?
Well, I feel like it's important to go back and I just really want to say at least something about beauty and something about wholeness, because I think that it takes us the next step. So there's another essay on beauty. And basically what I'm saying there is the word beauty is used more in the Song of Songs than anywhere else in the Hebrew Bible. And so this kind of speaks to your question, Trisha, of like the whole, like, beauty isn't something that we necessarily talk about as something we should be paying attention to in nature. And in fact, the whole idea of landscapes and paying a lot of attention to landscape in order to engage people in environmental activism, it's not something people take really seriously. And yet the beauty of the natural world is something that most people across political divides can really relate to. And it seems to me that one of the most important things we need to do is reach across those divides and speak to people that may not be interested in our political orientation, but that beauty is able to often capture the imagination. And here, what you have in the song is what beauty is the natural world. The two characters, the way they define each other as beautiful is always in terms of nature, always. It's like they don't know what beauty is until they've seen the gazelles on the hillside.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's one thing. And then the other thing I feel like is really important is that God language is not used at all in the Song of Songs.
Mm.
And so that's what my section on holiness is about, is like, how is it, what's going on there that God language isn't used? And yet in Jewish tradition, Rabbi Akiva, really important rabbi from ancient rabbi, said that he said that the Song of Songs was the Holy of Holies, that it was the most important book of all of the biblical books. And so it's kind of like, well, what is that about? Like, where is God then? If this book is so holy. And so one of the things that I talk about is about being able to feel the presence of God in nature. That's where most people actually feel the presence of God. And again, this is a whole question of like, how do we reach people? How is it that we engage people? And I just feel like seeing God in nature is something that lots of people have an experience of. That's where they find the divine. So again, for me, it's all about reaching audiences that we may not be used to engaging. And that the Song of Songs can really help us have conversations. So like with, more conservative Christians or more conservative Jews, of trying to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Um,
It reminds me of an essay that I read several years ago called Everybody Needs a Climate Thing. And it was about how climate is so ethereal and invisible. But if you connect with the seasons, or with the flowers in your yard, or with bird migration, or preserving natural beauty, or anything else that just is the hook that makes love for creation real to you. That's what we need to compel us forward.
right. And let me just say about that, because I think that really the ultimate in climate is the other word that appears more in the song than anywhere else, except for in discussions of sacrifice in Leviticus, is the word ruach. Reach, which means scent, right? The word reach, like the song, what's so amazing about the song is when you read it, you feel the denseness of the atmosphere. Usually we don't pay a lot of attention to the atmosphere, but the word scent and hearing about all these different scents brings our attention more to the floral world and the sense that they give off. And the word reach is totally connected to the word ruach, which is the word spirit. Yeah, the word smell and spirit, right? It's another reference to God. And so just being able to connect this, like that the song helps us to see the air and to see God in the air. Like, to me, there's nothing more profound from a climate perspective than to start recognizing God as in the air.
Thank you so much, Ellen. This has been so refreshing to talk with you about this book, and I've enjoyed reading it, and I know that everyone here will benefit greatly from it. And I really appreciate your time. We've had a couple of conversations and culminating in tonight, and really appreciate your presence with us. Thank you so very much. And we're going to come back for I know there are a few questions in the chat. And but first, before we do that, we're going to have a little time for breakouts. And I'm going to send this into the chat. These are a couple of questions that we want everybody to consider in your breakout rooms. And when you get the invitation, you'll just join the room and we'll be there for, I think, about 20 minutes and then come back together. So we'll see you presently.
Rua, did you save the transcript? I don't think I did before. Hi, everyone. This is Ace, Adrian. My nickname's Ace, and I'm just waiting to make sure everyone's back from their breakout groups. Does it look like a yes? Everyone's back? Yes, okay, great. So I know in my group, we just had a fabulous conversation. And what we want to do now for a few minutes is just have some reporting from the various groups, what people came up with. And then we'll have a little bit of time to ask Rabbi Ellen any questions that people have. We have a couple, including one from me. And then at the end, we'll send it back to Jim. So that's the plan for us. It is 9:16 and we promptly end at 9:30, the third act faith meetings. That's one of our principles. So yay for us. Who would like to start us off? Spare my group, or otherwise I'll call on them because I know them now. But which other group would like to start? Somebody put up your hand or just jump in. And remember, you can put up your hand. If you go to the reactions at the bottom, it'll have a little raise hand, and then we know that you want to talk. Come on, jump in. I know Zoom, everybody holds back, but we'd love to hear from other groups. Which group wants to start for us? Okay, great. Linda's gonna start for us because she was in my group, and then we'll call on Pat.
Okay, I'll make it quick. We really focused just on the first question for the majority of time. So we'll tackle that one in terms of what from our faith do we connect with our drive for conservation and sustainability. One of the things that Carrie had brought in is our language. We noted that basically how we refer to things in nature and in our spirituality, that basically it tells us how we identify with it. And I had then noted about braiding sweetgrass is a great example of that being made very apparent in the fact that the way we use pronouns, he, she, it is always nature, that our language, we've made it in our society where it divides us. And I believe Carrie said that you can see that even in other languages, such as Chinese, that it separates us. My part of what spirituality brings me into sustainability and promoting it is, as a Catholic, I try to identify with people something that's very important to our faith. And any Catholics know water plays a big part of it. Baptism, we go to church every weekend, dip our hand in a fountain, make a sign of the cross with it. Water is very important. So you start pointing out to them, wow, when Father blesses that, do you think that water's clean for us to be putting God into? Are you okay with the plastics that might be in it or the pollution? And so our sacraments, which tie into water, I believe that that's something that helps people of my faith connect with, wow, God is in these things that we use for our sacraments, and we're dirtying it up. And then we're saying God is in it. It's like not a great thing. So that is what we discussed.
Thank you so much. And also just to add two things for, Carrie mentioned the power of silence, sitting and listening to the world out there, not New York City, but the world out there in the woods, in the river, and listening to the sounds of that world will bring you closer. And also what Linda was suggesting and Carrie was echoing is that when you reach people around something they really care about, that they really experience. So for instance, if you have this notion of water is sacred, then you extend that. And I thought that was a really good kind of community one-on-one organizing tip. Find people where they care and have that conversation. So we're going to turn to Pat.
Well, Janice and Bobby and Wendell and I had a lovely conversation. Two lay people, two with ministerial, pastoral, theological training. But oddly enough, we all said, wow, I need to go back to the Song of Songs. It seemed like most of us were less familiar with it than we want to be now. So thank you, Ellen. We talked about the wild church movement, which I had not heard of. So that was fascinating to me. And I guess taking a bit of the privilege of the speaker here, I just want to share when we started talking about resources in our own faith traditions that inspire us. I mentioned an offering prayer that we use in the Lutheran Church. And I'd love to know, maybe people could chat me if you've heard this in other churches as well. There's a line in there in which we dedicate our lives to the care and redemption of all that God has made. And I was just saying that like most of us in worship, a lot of what I do is rote. You're just repeating the words and blah, blah, blah. Every time we get to that line, I wake up. It's like, oh man, I got to get busy. So that's what we talked about. And who's next?
Thank you. MJ, how about if you report quickly on your group? We have time for just one more report before we open up for any questions for Rabbi Ellen. We don't want to waste the opportunity of having her on our screen.
We had a fascinating discussion on the first one only also. And Robert and Sarah were on that conversation, and both of them talked about experiences in their own faith traditions. And Robert talked about, I hope I'm saying this correctly, Tikkun Olam. It's a tradition of the repairing the universe or healing the world. Robert, can you talk? And then Sarah brought up the experience in the Methodist Church and the camp meetings, grounding of the camp meetings as being a grounding for a foundation, of respect for the earth and creation. But I'm gonna let both of them talk about that because both of them had a lot to say. That was interesting. But Robert, can you explain the repairing the universe, how that was part of your tradition?
Just simply put, Tikkun Olam is a cultural as well as a religious understanding that the world, when the universe was created, it became shards, and that our job is to sort of put the shards back together again. So rebuilding and piecing together the world. Simple.
Okay, yeah. So both of them brought perspectives from their traditions that gave me new insights on how to look at creation and how our churches are grounded in that, even though we sometimes don't think, oh yeah, the other thing was hymns. Hymns were an important part of our background.
MJ, thank you. That's beautiful. It's very exciting to hear from people and hear that people are inspired by Ellen and Trisha's conversation. So Ellen, I think there are only two questions. One was a comment from Carrie that I thought was really wonderful about Chinese and India traditions and their traditions of love between the deities and the natural world or the human world, but that these love poems really infiltrate or permeate other traditions. So I thought that was great. But somebody wanted to ask, and so I'll just lay it out for you about paganism and the fact that this person wasn't saying they were practicing pagan, but they were wondering if when you expand the categories from God to human to God and the earth and loving the earth in that way, is there something pagan about that? And would that turn off people of faith, monotheists, etc.? So that's the one question I got out of the chat. And then I have a slightly different one I'll ask, and we only have a few minutes left, so you're muted.
Okay. I also wanted to start by thanking Carrie for her comment because it's really interesting. So I hope people take a moment to read the whole thing. Okay. In terms of paganism, to me, the song feels, it doesn't, well, first of all, I don't have a problem with pagan ideas, but I don't think that there's any kind of conflict here. Again, the Song of Songs was considered the Holy of Holies by like the most important ancient rabbi. So I think it's really, really important to hold that. I mean, it's, you know, so this is what, you know, like the most serious Jews were saying. So and there are also all these hidden references to oneness, to the sense of oneness in the song. I don't have, you know, I'd have to sit with you with the text to show you, but also again the literary connection of reach, of scent and ruach, bringing your attention to the air. It just feels like, wow, what could be more godly than that? I mean, it just feels like this very subtle, beautiful way of talking about God. So to me, that's what, and then really what my work has always been about and continues to be about is that the whole idea of the God of nature is that we have really overlooked that idea, the God of creation, right? The God of creation who is right there front and center in the first chapter of our Bible. It's something, you know, this is a whole nother talk I could give. And maybe Trisha and I could do something together with Ace about how this whole idea of the God of creation, which is so important in the Bible, then gets overlooked throughout history. And so really what I'm trying to do is bring back the idea of God of creation, take the idea of God of creation much more seriously. Right now, what when we think about God, we think about salvation, redemption, revelation. And those are the primary ways, I'm pretty sure I could say, for Christianity and Judaism that we think about God. And what I'm really trying to do is lift up the idea of God of creation, which again, in the Bible is critical, but the way that we've come to read the Bible is, you know, it is very human-centered and overlooking this whole idea of the God of creation.
I don't think I can have time to ask my question, but I don't need it because you answered us beautifully. And our parting thoughts from you, I would only add love and God the creator is going to be the formula that gets us through. So hopefully, and now I'm going to turn it back to Jim.
Well, this has been a fabulous time. Ellen, it's of course great to see you again. And thank you for sharing so brilliantly and movingly with us. I want everybody to know we're going to have no general meeting in February, but please mark your calendar for March 19th. Brian McLaren, who is one of the best known religious writers in America, author of, I think, 17 books. his soon-to-be-released book, I happen to have a copy of it in my hand, is Life After Doom. And the subtitle is Wisdom and Courage for a World Falling Apart. So we'll have an opportunity to fully engage Brian on that and other topics. And now I just want to thank everybody for sharing in your work and wisdom the way you have with us tonight, and to bless you as you go forth to repair and restore creation, tikkun olam, with God's strength and peace. Now we're going to go out with some music. Thank you, everybody.
ליבבתיני אחותי חלב ליבבתיני באחת מעיניי באחת ענק מצווארו